we have a really exciting little class prepared for you guys tonight. So thanks for being super interested in your orgasmic potential and your sexuality. We know how life-changing and transformative it is. And so we just love to be around like-minded people who get that and who are seeking to understand more and just really go deeper with their relationship to their sexuality. So really thrilled that you all are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's do a little grounding together. So start by just grounding our nervous systems into a collective field where we can all feel like we are in the same room. We're in the same Zoom room, but let's get our nervous systems into that feeling of being in the same room. So just go ahead and close your eyes and drop into a long, full, complete exhale. Just allow your navel to drop all the way down to the very bottom of your breath, navel pressing back toward the spine, clearing all the stale air from the very bottom of your lung. As you inhale, fill the lower, the middle, and the upper lungs to full capacity. Add a little pause at the top of your breath. As you exhale all the way down to the very bottom of the breath. Now there's a moment of bliss, of joy, of pleasure when your exhale transitions into your inhale. So right at that turnaround point, catch that moment of bliss. And then as you inhale, just allow a beautiful effervescent white color to fill your lungs. Same thing at the top of the breath. Catch that moment of bliss. Don't let it pass you by. Moment of joy as the breath transitions from an expansion to a contraction. And as you start to really watch your breath move in and out through your lungs, just imagine that you are a tree and you've got these amazing roots, and your roots dig deep into the earth and they travel down through the layers of the earth, through the sand and the sediment and the rock and the stone, all the way down through the layers of the earth. They travel down about twice the length of your own body into the earth. And from there, these energetic tendrils continue to spread across the earth throughout those inner weavings of the earth's surface. And these energetic tendrils, they expand across the entire planet, connecting you with all the other beautiful souls on this call. So feeling each and every soul on this call here for the same reason, to explore a deeper aspect of life, to explore a part of humanness, human sexuality that transcends what we know we are capable of, that allows us to become more whole in our lives and more of who we came here to be. And so with this connection, this interweaving of these souls all around the planet, just feeling your own nervous system ignite more fully and become even stronger, more powerful, and allowing yourself to really drop into this receptive place in your body, and just receiving whatever comes through tonight, trusting that the wisdom or the nuggets of the pearls of wisdom that come through for you tonight are exactly what you are meant to hear and what you're meant to learn and what you're meant to become inspired by. So with that, we will be spending about an hour, might be a little bit longer with Q&A at the end, but we want to spend about an hour with you covering the 5 secrets to a really robust, a really prolific self-cultivation practice. So all of your sexuality is coming from inside of you, and really knowing how to cultivate that essence and that energy from the inside is what allows you to bring a very full experience to partnership. So we want to cover the 5 secrets and why these are so important, why they're so valuable. We'll give you some fun little stories and we'll tell you how much further you can take these 5 secrets. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the course that we have coming up, Tao Meets Tantra, in which we go much deeper with these 5 secrets that we're going to give you today. And no matter if you're on your own or if you're in a relationship, there's so much to learn, so much wisdom to be had. Then we're going to get into the secrets to quadrupling the length and the power of your orgasms. So we have quite a bit of information for you tonight. We're really excited to share it with you. So with that, let's go ahead and drop into these 5 secrets to robust self-cultivation practice and really the value of that. So I'm going to pass it over to Leah, and she's going to kick us off with sexual energy and what is sexual energy and what's the value of knowing how to manage it.
So before I dig into that, Dr. Willow Brown, some of these folks may not know you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I've been teaching Taoist sexology for a long, long time now, over a decade, and doing women's health and Chinese medicine, functional medicine, endocrinology for almost 2 decades. So really weaving together sexuality for health and for co-creating with the universe is my sole purpose and what I love to support people in doing. So I work with people on all levels, from the physical to the emotional to the spiritual to the psychological, so that we can get a really whole transformation. And teaming up with Leah Piper has been an absolute joy, pleasure, and dream to bring all this medicine so much more forward. So go ahead and introduce yourself, love.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Leah Piper, and I have been a Tantra educator, facilitator over going on 20 years, doing weekend seminars, and I have a private practice. And my mission is really just to help people love better, to give us the skills to embrace all the ways that we can love while we have a body on this planet. And especially sexual love. I think it's one of the most unique types of love. And one of my biggest prayers for everyone on the planet is that they know what it feels like to be deeply emotionally and sexually loved to their core. And that's why it's my mission with Dr. Willow Brown and Sex Reimagined that we create a world that is pleasure forward and shame free, and a world that sees sex as something that's sacred and fun, fabulous. And that we really respect all these different seasons in our life as we weave in and out, being in an adventurous stage when it comes to sexuality, being in a pause stage when we're in sexuality, being in a learning stage and a spiritual stage, all these stages we can weave in and out of. And tonight we're going to be talking about 5 cornerstone principles that you really want to have as a part of your foundation when it comes to creating a cultivation practice. And what that means is that you take a look at what conscious sexuality can mean for you, and you start to weave in this ancient wisdom and knowledge to create a healthy, vibrant, vitality-filled existence as it relates to how you love yourself and how you love others. First, I want to let everyone know that we are recording this so that there's a replay for those who can't make it tonight. And so we want to protect your privacy. Feel free to remain with your camera off, or you can have it on. It's totally up to you, but it will be recorded. So our first foundation is sexual energy. And sexual energy can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, right? I'm sure you've all been to an event or a party or a restaurant, and you could feel sort of the sexual energy in the room. Maybe you could feel sexual energy coming towards you. Maybe you could feel your own sexual energy and wanted to pass it on to someone else. And so when we take a look at sexual energy, I think what we most want in ourselves is to be able to feel our sexual energy, number one, And number two, to have it be received by whoever we want to give it to. Am I right or am I right? And sometimes we notice that there's sexual energy that we don't want that's coming towards us. And so there's a whole method of taking a look at sexual energy and starting to think of it as if it is energetic responsibility. How can we be more responsible and clean with our sexual energy? And for a lot of us, we kind of miss cues when it comes to sexual energy. We're not always aware that someone was like coming on to us or wanting our attention. And it could even be our beloved of 20 years, or it could be a total stranger. And later we sort of think on it and go, oh, did they like me? Or oh, did they want to get it on? And I missed it. So when we take a look at sexual energy, what we're doing is we are building our awareness of what sexual energy is to us, how to cultivate it so that we can feel the yumminess of it, and how to share it responsibly. Now, there are others that might relate more to feeling like they've got so much sexual energy and they want to be able to share it. And it feels like people are always slapping it away or putting it down. Or maybe sometimes you feel like you're getting in trouble with your sexual energy. And that could be really painful too. Kind of feels like you're being rejected for just being naturally who you are. And so that weaves us back into the energetic responsibility piece around being able to contain our energy, to be able to use our sexual energy and not only express it in sexual ways, but sometimes more importantly, figure out a way to harness it and redirect it to other areas in our life. Because most of us have jobs or we have hobbies that we're really passionate about. And when you think about what sexual energy is, it is creative energy. In fact, it's that creates life itself. So if we can harness our sexual energy and begin to redirect it to apply it to other useful areas in our life, boy, are we on the path to self-cultivation. So that is foundation number one, is sexual energy. And if you have some words to say about sexual energy, we would love to hear it in the chat.
This is very much our sort of societal norm, and what we grow up with is, that the male would be the advancer. And so it can feel to the female a lot in a heterosexual relationship that there's always this, like, always trying to get something from me. I have several couples I'm working with currently where that's the case, and it's too much. It's like too much for the woman when the man is penetrating energetically before the flower is open, right? Before there's like a softening and an opening and a ripening. So it's both parties need to take responsibility for this imbalance in energy as it's coming through. This even reminds me of when I was younger. I developed very young, like 12 years old. I had the boobs and everything already at such a young age. And I would walk down the road and get catcalled. And I just had no idea what to do with that kind of energy. It was coming at me before I was energetically open and ready for it. I didn't know how to manage that. And so teaching couples in particular, but really all of us, I mean, we all can learn to become more responsible with our energetic pattern, teaching how to set energetic boundaries and how to speak into where you want someone to come to rather than all the way in. Like if someone's penetrating you energetically all the way too far in, then really teaching them how to have a stronger barrier. And that could be in the form of words. It could be in the form of stature, physical shape of your body. It could be in the form of just like putting up an energetic barrier, like a bubble around yourself. So there are many different ways to take responsibility for your energy. It can completely shift a sexual dynamic between two people, something that has been agitating the relationship or this pattern that's been going on for, 5, 10, 25 years can shift really quickly when these foundational approaches to and practices to energetics of sexuality are in place. And they're quite simple. And a lot of them come from the ancient wisdom of Tantra and of Taoist sexology. So we'll really be going into a lot of depth inside of the Tao Meets Tantra five-part course that we have coming up around those practices and how you can apply them no matter what your sort of status is in your sex life.
The next foundation that we're going to dance our way into is sexual touch. On one level, as you know, sexual touch is kind of natural. It's primal. We figure it out, but we're missing something. There's so much that we're never taught that is just not connected, certainly not in our sex ed classes. And there you only get so much reference points from something like porn. And when you start to take a look at the variety of touch, of sexual touch, and sexual touch is very unique, right? One of the mistakes I think people often make is when they go to be sensual with someone and they want to give them a massage, we just kind of go to therapeutic. When we can start to up-level our skill set and knowledge of what makes a great toucher, how do we really turn on another body? Well, there's a few things you want to keep in mind. For one, a sensual touch is a slower touch, and it's a caress that it often conforms to the body. You also want to lengthen the touch and stretch it out. So when you caress someone down the arm, to the hips, down the leg, it has a more sexy appeal than if you just squeeze some shoulders. I mean, squeezing shoulders feels good, but it's not always very sexy or very sensual. But to have some nuances with your touch. In the 5-part course, we're going to be talking about the 3 different parts of your hand that do different things when it comes to touch. One is very good for applying pressure. And the master lover has 7 different levels of pressure. And then there are other parts of the hand that are better for a lighter touch or a slower touch. So there's also 7 different speeds of touch. And we've got 5 different permutations or modalities of touch. And each one of those modalities has a different permutation. So there's limitless potential on what you can do with touch. And that's just the friction-based touch. If we kind of weave in the sexual energy or the intention to sexually heal or sexually awaken, then we need deeper nuances with our touch because your touch has power. For reference point, your heart, right? We all know the heart space is this place for lots of love and all this beautiful intent that we can have. And if we are with our lover and we want them to feel safe and desirable, and we want them to feel and we want them to know that they're lovable to us, well, we can put that in our touch. And so there's this whole concept called energy transference through touch. And what that does, how it uplevels who we are as a lover, but not just lover, who we are as a friend, who we are as a parent, is that it allows us to understand that we are these electrical beings, right? We're all electricity. And I can influence the circuitry in my friend's body by being intentional with the current that runs through my hands. The thing that I really want you to know is that your touch is powerful and your touch can heal and your touch can awaken the orgasmic potential in your body and, of course, in someone else's body.
So powerfully. As a longtime healer, putting my hands on people for a long time, over 2 decades, I've learned so much about your heart being the pathway to your hands. You can think about like your heart is this ocean of love, and then your arms are these rivers. You actually have meridians that run down these rivers and right into your palms. And here at the center of the palm, there is a point called Lao Gong. It's like the heart chakra point. And there are different parts of your hands that we're going to cover inside of the Tao Meets Tantra course that you can do different things with. So the thenar eminence, this part of your thumb has got some kind of magic to it, different than the fingertip pads, different than the Lao Gong point, different than all these different parts of your hand. And then we've got different pressures and different, scratching and tickles, all the different levels and layers that we'll talk about. But one of the most important things is just what is coming from your heart and how do you want to transmit that to this other person's nervous system and this other person's body. Now, everyone has a different sexual blueprint. Some of us are more energetic. Some of us are more kinky. Some of us need a firmer touch. Some of us need like feather light touch. Somewhere in between is everyone else, And so knowing what is really right for you is a huge part of bringing a strong relationship with your own sexuality into relationship with somebody else. Understanding what kind of touch really works for you and where that touch feels the best on your body is how you can then communicate with your lover. And it doesn't even have to be with words because sometimes words can be confining and trip us up. But knowing like, oh, I really like this inner wrist or inner elbow, backs of my knees tickled, then you can do that on your partner and say, ooh, how does that feel for you? And they might be like, oh, kind of annoying. I don't really like it. Or they might be like, I love that. And then you'd be like, oh, I really love it too. Right. So you can show your partner what you like on their body while simultaneously discovering what they like. So it's really a win-win. And this module that we're going to teach on touch is really playful. It's really about just exploring, being in your curious mind, bringing that childlike quality forward of like, well, what else can we discover? What else can we play with? What else is possible here? And if you've been in relationship for many, many years with one person, it can be so valuable to bring these new practices and levels and layers into the relationship.
From a personal standpoint, I am so grateful that I stumbled into a Tantra class and learned more about touch because it ended up being very instrumental in me healing sexual trauma. And what was so surprising for me is going through this process of exploring self pleasuring with a different way of holding it. For the first time in my life, I got to start to think about, well, what do I like? What does turn me on? What doesn't turn me on? And I think before then, my response was always, well, try something. I'll tell you if I like it. But I never, until that moment, had given myself a chance to learn my own personal map. Like, this is my map. And I'll tell you, it's been incredible because every partner that I've been with since has been so grateful because they're like, yeah, I want to know your map. Like anything that'll help me win with you, I'm all in. It's so wonderful to have that attitude with each other as we are exploring someone else's body. Isn't it the best when you feel confident and you feel empowered and you feel like you've got flow, you're curious together and you kind of dance and open one another's body and start to have experiences that are brand new. And that's the value of becoming a master toucher. And when you start to feel what it's like to have someone touch you and they're not taking, but they're giving, it's a distinction you'll have for the rest of your life. And it's one of those things that we encourage you during the course is to really take a look at having a solo practice. We welcome couples to do the course and to do the practices together. But what we really want you to do is also do the solo practices because this is about learning sexual sovereignty. It's about knowing who you are on a very, very, very deep level. And pleasure can be a pathway to self-realization.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
good for us. It's so healthy for us. Sexual vitality and sexual medicine. Now, this is an area that most people have never considered. How can sexual energy and orgasm be redirected so that it becomes a medicine for my body? We want you to have the science and the skill sets to be able to use your sexual energy and redirect it to your tissues and your glands and your organs. And we've got an incredible doctor who specializes in this medicine.
The highlight of what the Taoist sexology practices bring to the table is how to draw orgasmic energy to different places in your body, whether it's a thyroid gland or a kink in your neck and shoulder or a pain in your knee. You can draw this effervescent, light, expansive, like explosive energy to different places in your body. Most of the time when we figure out how to do sexuality on our own, we figure out that we're just going to have, we'll just have an orgasm. And what it does is it just it goes real quick. It's like 3 to 5 seconds and it goes out of the body. So there's a way to draw orgasmic energy up into the body. And one of the things that we're going to highlight quite a bit inside of the course is the adrenal glands, because in Taoist wisdom and philosophy, your sexual energy is stored in your kidneys, and your adrenals live right on top of your kidneys. And so we hear this term so frequently these days of adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue. And then most of us can relate to like, oh, I'm so tired all the time. I'm having this dip in energy around 3 PM. And so we need caffeine or sugar to kind of get us through those dips in the day. And so I'm actually going to go quite deep into adrenal support. So a lot of our adrenals look like these shriveled up little raisins, and I want yours to look like big, juicy plums. And so I'm going to teach you not only sexual practices, breath practices to bring those plums into shape and form, but also we're going to talk about nutrition, everything that you're doing and thinking. And this is a very holistic practice, all of this integration of sexual medicine into your life. It's a very holistic practice. And so all the pieces need to be in place. And what I want to say is I've helped thousands and thousands of people heal from adrenal fatigue, from infertility, from fibroids, from low libido, from low testosterone levels, from all these different things that seemingly are taking them out of their sexual game. And a big piece of it is bringing the mind into alignment with what you truly want, truly desire. One of the most miraculous cases I've had is a woman who was having pain during orgasm. So painful orgasms, very unusual, though now I have come across about 5 cases in my time practicing. And this woman uses the Taoist sexual practices constantly to not only manage, but to experience pain-free orgasms that are very, very high experiences for her. She also was suffering from some adrenal fatigue when she came to me. So between the painful orgasms and the adrenal fatigue, I mean, she was really just not interested in sexuality at all, but she was, it was like her body didn't want to go there, but her mind and her soul did. And so when we were able to get her body into balance and using her orgasmic energy to heal these places in her body, it's completely changed her entire life, not just her sex life and love life. So there's lots of room for growth for all of us in this category.
We can take sexual medicine now and bring it into sexual healing. I think what most people most want is sexual awakening, right? We hear about these amazing tantric and Taoist orgasmic realms that like sound so mind-blowing. And I think that ends up being the door that a lot of people walk through when they start getting interested in pursuing studying their sexuality more. The truth is there's also an even deeper intuition. It's like we know on some level that there's something more to sex, and it's time to figure it out. And I think where sexual healing really comes into play with sexual awakening is it's usually kind of the first frontier, because every single one of us has been wounded on the path to love. We have these hearts that feel so much, and we want to connect that more to how we feel pleasure. Because when those two come together, it is truly spectacular, truly spectacular. And one without the other is just less rich. So when you think about sexual healing, there are wonderful, wonderful practices and techniques and rituals that help us clear out areas in our body that trap old psychological stories. The things that haven't quite been processed. If you've had a trauma in your life, even if it has nothing to do with sex, maybe you were in a car accident, or maybe you had a difficult birth coming into the world. Maybe you have had a sexual trauma, or you just recently had a divorce, or maybe you've had a health concern that has plagued you. When you engage the practice of sexual healing, what you're doing is you're starting to go into the places in the body where those unprocessed emotions are still lingering. And this gives us a chance to create a safe, sacred space for ourselves or for another. And by understanding where to put your hands and connecting them to emotions and sexual energy, you can start to deeply affect the movement of those unprocessed emotions and finish them up. And what happens when we don't do that work is our body tends to crystallize those unprocessed emotions and it turns into disease eventually. I just want you to know this is really good news, this sexual healing thing, because when you can kind of go in and notice the blocks in your body and you do simple techniques like breathing and making the sound of the sensation of the block, it becomes very easy to move and finish processing the past. And when we do that, we're making more space in our body for love to live there. And it's also teaching us how to more live in our body because we're so, it's our conditioning to really be up in our heads. And because bodies hurt, sometimes we're like, well, why would I want to live in a body? Right? So we kind of float up in here. But we want to come down and fully live life through this miracle called a body and receive the pleasure, which is our birthright. And so learning sexual healing skills and practices is beautiful. Not only is it good for you, but to be able to offer that to someone else, that's what leads to awakening. And that's what guides us into this world of mystical experiences, transcendent orgasms. It's where we start to tap into the profundity of love.
Yeah.
You know, I want to just say this last little thing, kind of give you a reference for what I'm talking about and the application of it. This is just kind of simple. And it's a non-sexual example. Imagine a little kid who just skinned their knee. Right? And they're crying and it hurts. And you pick them up and you bring them onto your lap. And you're probably rubbing the back of his heart, drying off his tears. Maybe you're holding the front of his heart without even knowing that you're doing a technique. But your love is in your hands. And you're sending with your hands, it's okay, you're safe now. That's basically the same principle that we're referring to when it comes to being with your body or someone else's body. And we'll teach you the 7 different areas in the body so that you've got a map. You'll start to learn how do we connect the whole body to itself? How do we connect the heart to the genitals? How do we have greater, bigger orgasms by connecting the heart to the throat to the genitals? So on and so forth.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest takeaways from this particular piece that we're going to teach in more depth is that sexual awakening comes from sexual healing. And until you clear the emotional trauma, the old shame, the old guilt, the old pain, the old heartbreak that gets lodged in the tissues of the body, there's no room for the awakening. So this is a really, really important part of the process. And there's a map for it. So like, let's learn how to read that map and navigate this whole terrain that we are living in. I mean, we want you to really, truly believe and feel that your body is a temple for pleasure, for healing, for awakening, for transcendence to come through. And that's our goal. So that's what we're here to really support you in. And what I find with my students, I know you see this all the time too, Leah, is like one of the most amazing things that happens for them transcendently is after they clear all their old personal trauma, family trauma, lineage trauma, they start having these emotional releases and they're just like, I don't even know what that was, but I think it was like the pain of all the wounds of all time, of all space. And it's just really profound. It transcends time and space. So that's just a little glimpse into like the possibilities when you learn these foundations.
When you learn to expand your threshold to run current safely in your body, you'll be able to notice 2 really significant things. One is your pleasure potential will quadruple. Suddenly, your orgasms are more intense, they're longer, they're more miraculous, and you feel them in different parts of your body, not just your genitals. And also, you notice that you're able to process negative emotions faster. So good emotions expand and hang out longer, and negative emotions are faster to process. Who doesn't want that? Get me out of being triggered as fast as you can. That's my motto.
So just a little recap that we've been talking about so far.
Yeah.
We talked sexual energy, sexual touch, sexual vitality, sexual healing. And now we're on to our last of these 5 super key foundations for sexual mastery, which is sexual arousal.
Yeah. Sexual arousal is really the process of which we start to expand our threshold within our nervous system to rewire our neural pathways so that we can run stronger current through our body. So what we do in this module is we're going to teach you all about the arousal scale. We're going to teach you how to breathe, how to stay in the moment, how to be present, what to do when if you start to flood because emotions arise, and how to surf what we call the Shakti waves. So Will and I both lived in Santa Cruz for quite some time, and it's a big surfing spot for those of you who don't know. And you watch these awesome surfers, right? And they know how, the good ones, they know how to surf the wave, and then they cut out before they get wiped out. And so the same principle applies to us running and playing with our own pleasure. There's the concept called one and done. It's like, okay, once my clitoris pops off an orgasm, or once my partner has an ejaculation, then it's over, it's done. Get close to the edge, and then you surf out of the wave. And then you catch the next wave, and you surf that for a while. And before you crash, meaning you're done, you cut out of the wave. And when you can learn how to surf the waves of pleasure, then what happens is you start to understand and rewire the system to be multi-orgasmic. Well, when you can learn how to surf the wave and cut out before the wipeout, you get to be at the peak level of arousal. And that feels so beautiful. It feels so good. It's so yummy that once you can learn how to patiently hang out there, you come to realize that that's the best part. And although a wipeout is fun and it's intense, it just means everything's over. So we want to bring to you your awareness of arousal so that you can surf those waves, so that you understand how arousal and turn on works in your body. And we're all different. You know, what turns me on may not turn you on. And so we get to start that process of unpacking, like, what are the things that allows us to feel really opened. And when we can live a turned on life, or when we can live a life that's connected to passion, our life just gets better.
Yeah, super powerful. And as we go into the nuances of the arousal scale, I just want to give you a little example from my own life. You know, we're going to teach the arousal scale and how to navigate that and how to use that as a language with yourself and also with a lover. And what I'm noticing in my own life right now is a very, very deep heart connection with somebody. And so the energetic thing is there. The touch is there. And now this arousal piece, it's like what used to be a 6 to my current lover is now a 10 because of the emotional piece, because of the level of energetics, because of the level of presence. So all of these foundations just get more nuanced and more refined and more defined, and it gets to be really fun. And so, you know, you have to navigate, okay, what used to be, you know, a 6 is now a 10 because of this love and heart connection. That means I need your help. I need your help pulling out of that wave before I crash, you know, before I wipe out. That's why we're putting this course together, because we see the value of the foundations and we know how deeply layered they can become. We are going to talk a little bit now about the Tao Meets Tantra Foundations to Sexual Mastery 5-part course that we have coming up. So Tao meets Tantra. These foundations to sexual mastery really are the key, really are the crux to starting out any sacred sexuality practice Or even if you've been on a sacred sexuality practice for a long time, you can always come back to the basics and really, really bring those even more forward in what you have already been practicing. There will be some interaction with other students. So, we're going to be creating a community around this because community is so important when you're exploring something that most of the world isn't exploring. To have a safe place and a safe haven, a place where you can talk to others about what you're experiencing or what's changing for you or where you're getting hung up and stuck is so valuable. So we'll be doing our first class on August 20th. And we'll be doing that whole weekend. And classes are about 2 hours long. So we'll start at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the 20th and the 21st of August. Then the following weekend, we'll be doing the 27th and the 28th. So Saturday and Sunday from 10 to noon Pacific, 1 to 3 Eastern time. And then we'll have our final class, our fifth class on September 3rd. So those are the dates and they're all on the landing page. And in addition to these live foundation masterclasses, you're also going to get some really incredible, very generous, if I do say so myself, bonuses. So I'm offering the Jade Egg Remedy course, which is a really robust program on how to use the jade egg, what to do with your jade egg. Been interested in a jade egg, but don't even know what that is. It's a yoni egg and it's for women. It's really about coming home to your own divine feminine within and creating a lot more pleasure inside of your body, inside of your pussy, inside of your vulva, and getting to know your body on a much, much deeper level. So that's one of the bonuses. Do you want to talk about the other bonuses, Leah?
Yeah, we did a series for both men and women on how to last 10 times longer. We really address ejaculatory choice and ejaculatory control. And we give you some amazing techniques that really, really, really work. We teach both men and women how to support their partners who are trying to master this and the techniques that you want to apply if you're trying to master this. That's an awesome course. And we are giving that to you as a free bonus for signing up, including a free ticket to come to the last part of that series, where we teach men and those who love men how to become multi-orgasmic without tiring ejaculations.
So you'll focus in on these 5-part modules that we're going to start with over the next couple of weeks. And then you're going to have time to really go through the rest of these, the jade egg remedy and the lasting 10 times longer. There's really just a wealth of information in here and a lot to practice over the next several months of your sexual awakening journey.
So we decided for this group only that we were going to extend our early bird special. Normally, all of these goodies would come together and be about $5,000. And we're offering the course for $997, which is just an amazing deal.
Yeah. So if this is speaking to you, if it's resonating for you, if you're interested, get it tonight. And again, like Leah said, the value inside of this is definitely worth over 5,000. So again, if it's resonating, if it's speaking to you, then pick it up tonight for sure. Let's drop in next to the secrets to quadrupling the length and power of your orgasms. The reason you all signed up for this class tonight.
All right, are y'all ready? Are y'all ready to tonight have a longer, more intense orgasm? Because I want you to take this information and apply it this very night. This is something that is so much easier than you would think, but it requires two things from you: your willingness to expand your breath. People think breathing is just this automatic thing that we do. And yes, you'll hear in Tantra classes all the time, breathing, 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 breathing. People get so annoyed sometimes about breathing, but breathing is life. And when you can learn how to control your breath, amazing things happen to your health and happen to your orgasms. So right now, just to kind of get you primed and ready, I want you just to start breathing longer inhales and longer exhales out your nose. Just like that. Nothing dramatic, nothing crazy. Just a little bit longer on your inhale and a little bit longer on your exhale. Now, what does breathing do? Well, what I love to do is I like to imagine that my breath is like an elevator. And if I was feeling something sexy in my sexy bits, I would want to take a slow, long, deep breath and have that elevator go up all the way up to my brain. Why my brain? Because your brain is the biggest sex organ. It's the thing that's telling the rest of your body that something special is happening. So when you can start to engage your breath, it starts to carry the current higher up, infusing your brain with more of that sensation. And then the sensation that your brain is connecting to now sends the loop, the neural pathway can complete its circuit back down to the genitals. So we breathe in and we exhale. If you've ever struggled with chasing an orgasm, grasping for an orgasm, or it feels like you're so close. The vulva owners will probably know what I'm talking about a little bit more than the penis owners in the class. But there's this feeling of like, I'm so close, I'm so close, I'm so close. And then boom, it's gone. Can you feel me? Have you ever had that experience? And it's like, what the, what? I was so close. I was almost through the door. Look, here's the thing that we keep on screwing up. We start to hold our breath. And men do this too, even if they still have an ejaculation. They short circuit the power of their ejaculation by holding their breath. And it's natural. If you think about what is an orgasm, it's a series of contractions and expansions. You know, it's like these pulsations. So if we hold our breath, we're staying stuck in easy for me to say, in a contraction. The breath is what's going to help us expand and contract. Expand and contract. So when you pull the current of that sexy feeling all the way up your body and you imagine it could flood your brain and then it comes back down to kind of water all your juicy bits. And it's like, ooh la la, ooh la la. And then you take another breath and you pull that up and you imagine that it's just flooding your brain with all this yumminess. Well, here's part of the thing that starts to occur. You're now bringing your attention to moving your breath and moving the sensation of pleasure and orgasm up the body. What do you think that's going to do for your body? It's going to start helping you feel full body orgasms. Now, here's the thing you need to know about intensity. Think of sounding as your intensity volume controller. And if you want more robust, bigger, intense, and profound climaxes, you got to breathe and sound. It's the key. It's the magic. It's the secret sauce. So sounding sometimes feels contrived for people. So what I like to do is right from the get-go, as soon as I start leaning into some sexual intimacy, I start to breathe straight away. I deepen my breath, I slow everything down because that starts to calm the adrenals, which releases cortisol. You can't really have a great orgasm if you're super stressed out and you're flooded with adrenaline. So if you can start to relax the adrenals, slowing down the breath, diaphragmatic breathing calms our nervous system so we don't have anxiety. Takes some of the performance pressure off, leaning into that breath. And now sounding is sexy. Haven't you ever just loved it when someone was like oohing and eyeing because they loved what you were doing and they were breathing deep and heavy? So you want to start making that feel more natural. So it's all about sighing audibly. Mm, 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 mhm, You can say so much to your partner about what you're opening into by making some sounds. And I know we get embarrassed or nervous, or what if grandmother hears us, or the children hear us, or the neighbor hears us? Oh my God, what, we're going to ruin their life? Come on. Probably hearing those sounds will help them be less neurotic about sex too. So let's do them a favor and make the sounds of love. This is especially important as you start to hit the wave into your climax. You don't wait for something to be good enough, worthy enough to make a sound. Make the sound first because it's the sound that attracts the pleasure. You make a pleasurable sound first and the pleasure comes rolling out to you. And that means you don't have to keep on chasing it. Now,
That's so true.
It's so true, right? It's amazing. And it's just, you've got mirror neurons, right? So if you're dropping into your body and you're being more open in how you're moving your body, because moving your body is another key part to great sex. You can't just lay there like a lump on a log and think you're going to have great sex. It doesn't work that way. We have to stretch ourselves into being more active, into living in our pelvis, into breathing, into feeling and infusing our body. Even if you just breathe, I mean, you can get to a point where you can breathe your way into orgasm without even being touched. I kid you not.
Yes, that's true.
And that is a more advanced course. I will say that for another day. All right. So back to like really taking a leap into your climax and making it more intense. So think of a traditional clitoral or ejaculatory orgasm. It has a peak and a valley. 2.5 seconds into your orgasm, you're climbing up the peak. At the 2.5 second mark, which is what sexologists report, is the moment of ejaculatory inevitability if you're a man. And that's when the pubococcygeus muscles, the PC muscles, the lobe muscles start to contract, right? You're already in the world of orgasm. But now at that 2.5 second point, you start to have more rapid contractions in your clitoris or in your penis. And then you start to come down the valley of the orgasm for another 2.5 seconds. What that basically means is we're all having 5-second orgasms, give or take a second. But they seem longer than that, right? Well, what if I told you you could quadruple that tonight, or even by next week, turn that into a 30-second orgasm? That's why breath control is so important. The yogis have known this for thousands of years because they've been practicing breath control in their yoga practice all this time. So when you can grow in your breath control so that you can easily inhale 10 seconds and exhale for 10 seconds, well, you're halfway home, baby. So what you want to do is as soon as you hit the wave and you have the sensation, I'm coming, take your slowest, longest, deepest breath. And then as soon as you're full of air, make the sound of whatever's showing up. Any vowel will do, hard or soft. And as soon as you run out of breath, take your next slowest, deepest, longest breath. What's going to happen? Instead of going down the valley where you end up kaput, you'll stay on the ridgeline if you sound. And then you take your next deepest, longest breath because, baby, you're still feeling it. You're going to climb up another mountain. You're going to climb up another ridgeline. And then when you're full of breath, give it all you got and give it another sound. Stretch that baby up. You'll go to another ridgeline. They call it climbing the peaks of the Himalayas, depending on where you live. And so you want to climb those peaks. Now, are all of those a different orgasm? I don't know. Are they just one big long orgasm? Possibly. Who cares? It just feels good and lasts a really long time. And you'll get better and better and better and better.
And so what this practice with this breath expands your ability and your capacity to hold pleasure. Because a lot of times when we get going with sexuality, we don't have enough room inside of our systems, like our chakras and our meridian systems and all these parts of our bodies, our energetic bodies haven't expanded enough to allow that much pleasure to flow through. And so this breath and this sounding technique that Leah is talking about is super, super helpful for expanding your vessel. Think about your body as a vessel for pleasure to flow through, for love, for joy, for connection to divinity to flow through. And so what she's speaking to is about building a greater container for that. And this is such a personal journey to each and every one of us. We had a really great question from Ali about this edging thing. You know, the semen's coming down, and for a man, you get to a certain point, it's like there's the point of no return. And so it's about catching that point of no return before there's no return and stretching that out and expanding that out. So not ejaculating, not having an orgasm as a man for days or weeks, so that the sexual energy really builds inside of your body. I mean, your libido is going to be very high. And even for women, playing with that edging, not just in a sexual session, but over a period of a week. Like, I'm going to get super close 3 times one night and 4 times the next night and 5 times the next night. And I'm not going to have an actual over the waterfall orgasm, just really learning how to cultivate desire. There's so much energy in desire. We think about like a piece of chocolate cake. Yum. Who doesn't want a piece of chocolate cake? Like, oh, think about like, oh, there it is. It's over there. And I'm over here and I want it. And I have a lot of charge and a lot of energy in my body to get up off the couch and to go over to that chocolate cake. Right. So all of that charge and all of that energy of desire is medicine for your body. It is a way to co-create with the universe. So learning to cultivate that and to bring that into your system, not just your physical system, but your spiritual and your emotional body as well, is how you learn to expand your arousal scales.
How do you know if you're having a cervical orgasm?
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Well, I've been having a lot of those lately, so I'll take that one. So there is a whole practice of cervical orgasms, and when you are having one, it does tend to physically it reverberates up into your womb and up into your uterus and expands throughout your whole pelvic floor and your whole pelvic bowl, and you feel it so much more than just in your pussy. Like you don't just feel it in your clitoris or in your G spot or in the pudendal nerve, these different pathways in the yoni. You actually feel it travel all the way up from your womb up into the heart, and it's very expansive. So it will leave you with this feeling of being 100% fully connected to what I call the Tao. Others might call the universe or God. But it's this place where there is no separation between you and anything. Therefore, if there's no separation, then you can create, you can perceive, it's through your own perception, you can create whatever it is that you want to create in your life. You can use cervical orgasms because they are so transcendent and so powerful to call in a new partner or to call in a new job or to call in a new home or whatever it is that you're manifesting in your life. So it's a really powerful style of orgasm to use for what we call sex magic in the tantric world. And I don't want to go too deep into cervical orgasms because we're going to do a class on that soon, but it's a profound journey. So you'll know that you're having one by it feels very different. It can feel almost achy, a little bit painful, but in a good way. And then it reverberates all the way up into the womb, through the whole pelvic bowl, up through the belly, up through the heart. You can feel it travel all the way up to the crown of the head and out.
Yeah. And Kia, if you want to get started with cultivate that cervical orgasm, first little tip is lots of stillness and coming in very, very slow. So it's all about yin, discovering the power of yin energy, which is different than yang or yang energy. So that's going to have the qualities of slowness and stillness. And you bring that up towards the cervix, and you have to play with different positions depending on how high the cervix is. And just approach it with lots of gentle, cooling, sweet energy. And go on a fact-finding mission. And let's stay in touch because we want to discover what you're learning about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a great question from Carrie, not having any particular issues, but senior woman, so 72 years old with 51-year-old partner. Okay, so how to navigate that sort of age difference and with no particular questions or issues around that, Carrie, I would say presence is the key, just with no expectations around performance or how things should be, but just really being present with your own body, which is really what this whole foundations course that we're offering is about, is really knowing your own body and your own sexuality. And our sexuality changes as we go through the different stages in our life. And so we don't just get to know our sexual energy and then we're done. Okay, finish that up. No, we continue. It's a journey. It never ends. As you're shifting into these power years of your life, really paying attention to what's going on in my body right now in this moment. How is my body responding to this partner's body? And how could I maybe in this moment take responsibility for my own sexuality and get an even deeper response?
Yeah, and I would just add, I would play with the art of savoring with you and your sweetie, who is like 20 years younger than you. You go, mama. Savoring, the art of savoring, we can savor things that happened in the past, we can savor the present moment, and we can savor the things that are yet to come. And so being with each other and dreaming together and having open-ended conversations where you dream, you talk about all the things you'd like to do, you talk about the things you wish you could have done in the past. You talk about what moves you, what opens you, what closes you, and lots of eye gazing. We really want to connect soul to soul. The eyes is where it's at, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a good question from Christy. She's a strong female, tends to attract the strong masculine energy. I really love this question because I think it's very
It's such a good question.
yeah. And just having trouble getting those very masculine men to slow down enough to try these techniques. They're so used to being in control and moving quickly, which loops us back to one of the very first things we talked about, which is sexual energy. And so if a man who's been conditioned to be the man in the bedroom is coming at you before your rose, your flower has opened, those petals are ready to receive, there's a responsibility that you get to step up and take. And what I find is when you start to do that, you have that experience less and less, and you start to attract men who can read sexual energy and can take responsibility for their desire. Again, these men most likely have not been cultivating their desire. They're just like beelining for that chocolate cake. They're not thinking about it. They're not taking their time. They're not savoring. So teaching them how to do that through these energetic practices that come from Taoism and Tantra.
Yeah, and if I could just throw in a little tip is sometimes it's when we're trying to communicate what we want differently, it doesn't always land the way we most hope, right? There's some resistance. And what I've noticed works really well is do tactile touch. Show them on their own body what slow means to you, what softer means to you, what lighter means to you, because we all have our different interpretations of what slow is. And language does a really piss poor job of offering distinctions. So if you can show someone tactilely, then they know exactly what you mean when you say go slower, a little softer, a little lighter.
Yeah, absolutely. Super powerful. So then we're blending touch, sexual touch, and sexual energy and the language of it, how to speak to it. One of the things about languaging too that we'll touch on a little bit in this course, not too deeply, but is learning your partner's language, which is about knowing what's valuable to them so that you can speak to those values. But that can be really supportive and helpful in getting sexual experience on the same page with two people who might be speaking totally different languages and like, why can't we communicate on this? That's a really important part as well.
Getting a lot of great messages about having a partial hysterectomy and cervical orgasms,
Yeah.
trauma as it relates to the cervix and our ability to have these types of cervical orgasms, and even having a full hysterectomy, are cervical orgasms even possible? And our answer to that is
Yeah, they are.
yes.
Yeah.
You can have them. 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 We can all
In fact,
have them, even if it's not there anymore.
in fact, even I've heard non-binary penis owners have this experience of their cervix, have this experience of their womb and their ovaries and their fallopian tubes. So energetically, if you're in a yoni owning body and you've had a partial or a full hysterectomy, the energy of the organ is still there. If you've had your spleen or, part of your kidney or something removed, it's the energy of it is still there. So you can bring orgasmic energy to those places in your body and still feel that reverberation through that energetic organ. So it's a way to really heal the trauma of those types of surgeries. Even birth can be a trauma. Oftentimes it is. And so healing the cervix from that birth process, healing the cervix from any LEAP or cryo procedures that have had to be done due to dysplasia or pre-cervical cancer is really, really powerful in healing the cells of that organ. I mean, back to Leah's example of the little kid who skinned their knee and you just automatically put your hand on their heart. I mean, just sending love to that child from your heart, through your hands to their heart is healing for them. It soothes their nervous system. When their nervous system is soothed, their skin can heal faster. So that's really a powerful process.
Yeah, another way of sort of orienting you to how this is even possible, it's the phantom limb phenomenon. And so even if we have something removed, whether it's a breast, a hysterectomy, a cervix, a prostate gland, the energy of that organ is still very much there. And therefore, you would massage those different tissues that have been removed the same way you would massage them if they were still there. And it can be really effective.
Absolutely. Here's one more on ED.
Yeah, with the ED, surgeries and medication can both affect ED. And so you can work with those. And also, it's a mental game. If any three of those issues, what you want to do is you want to start thinking and acknowledging and being in right relationship with your body, with your lingam, ending the disapproval, the feelings of betrayal, the feelings of rejection. How is this happening to me? All those feelings, it's making peace with it and learning to love yourself on. And I want you to know, as a vulva owner, there are some orgasms I can only have with a soft penis. Try that on for size. So you got to embrace what you have and love it. Just allow it to become precious to you. And there's ways that you can massage and delight a partner. And then there's some other techniques and medical interventions that can help bring back those erections. But I really believe that one of the key, most natural points to resurrecting erections has to do with how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself, and how you embrace the power that is still there, right?
Absolutely.
Because guys, you have a soft penis 99.9% of the day, and you are still large and in charge. So don't ever allow the softness of your penis determine how powerful you are or what a great lover you are. It's not how big or hard you are that makes you a master lover. It's how much love and energy you can put out it. And that is a real skill, and it takes longer than a 3-minute answer to really drop you into that. It's a lifelong practice.
Absolutely.
And you do have homework, because we want this to be an embodiment course. We want you to get this in your body so you have embodied knowledge.
That's right.
Because it's nice up there, but it's nicer in here.
Yeah, we got to get it in the bod.
Yeah.
So
Thank you,
so much
everybody.
love and blessings. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Please stay in touch with us. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have more nights like these. And love, love, love.